I don't know what's doing here. That's Skinny Bill.
We all were back then.
Another ring. There we go. There you go. There we go. Better. Much better.
That's really Skinny Bill. And had hair too. I think if we want to start when I was born in Pueblo, Colorado, a long time ago. And my family moved to Colorado Springs and then eventually into, when I was in high school, I went to Palmer High School for my first year in high school, and then went to Englewood and graduated in Englewood High School. From there, the judicial system and a draft propelled me to join the Army. Because I was a habitual traffic offender, not a real criminal, but a speeder nonetheless. Then we went to Germany. Once you, I don't know what slide you got up next, Ed. Oh, that was really cute guy there. My mother was a photographer. That's why the pictures look so good. And that's my grandparents, and that's right after basic training, which I was pretty skinny then too. But at this point, we're in Germany, and I was a crew chief for the CO's helicopter. And if you can get kind of a look at that helicopter, it's a big sucker. It's a CH-34, and was big radial engines and just terrible thing. But I got to be the crew chief for the CO. It was my first crew chief experience, which was basically maintenance, is where I started out. And then I got that great looking orange suit, which was qualified. You had to be in an orange suit to fly in Germany. And I guess in case you fell down, they could find you. I guess, I'm not really sure about that. But, that's two of my good buddies that were in Germany with me. That's the Alfa Romero I bought over there. And the building is a German hangar, which was in the German Air Force. And that was in Echterdingen, Germany, which is just outside of Stuttgart. And I brought that car home. And I didn't bring those guys with me, but go on to the next one. I don't know what we got there. I'm sorry for the spit on my mouth, but that was pictures got stuck. But if you look at the neck on that kid, I weigh 210 pounds, was a strapping young fellow there. Not like the skinny guy you saw at the end. I was quite put together then, and doing a bad thing with the cigarette. Go ahead, Ed. And then we went to the skinny guy, which was, when I got home, I weighed 155 pounds. So I guess I ran a lot over there. But like I said, I didn't, the North Vietnamese had figured out what time we ate and where we ate, and they would put a rocket real close to the mess tent every day. I quit eating over there. I mean, a lot of other guys did too, but I quit eating there, period. I lived on sea rations for a long time. From the Korean War, they were dated that way, but they were still good. They worked. Go ahead. Sandbags, there was a lot of sandbags over there too. This is my rigging crew. When I first got there, what we did was we were maintenance, and our job was to go out and retrieve downed helicopters or jets or whatever they wanted recovered. We'd go out and rig it. This was my rigging crew. There's a pilot, co-pilot, some help. See that guy with the glasses? His name was Phil Esposito. He didn't like to fly. So he determined that the way he would get out of flying was he would be on latrine duty. And if I offend somebody, I'm sorry. In Vietnam, the way you got rid of the latrine stuff was in half 55-gallon drums, avgas, pull it out and burn it. That's what he did every day to get out of flying. I like flying myself. I don't want I didn't like that other thing very much. But we were kind of there's some strange bottles and stuff running around there that were put you in bed pretty quick. But that was our crew that we went with. And then they asked for crew chiefs, and I said, yeah, I want to be one of those. Because I didn't think I'd be in as much trouble as we'd go in the jungle and rigging stuff out. Stupid me. Go ahead, Ed. And I got one of those things strapped on me. And see, this one had, yeah, this one's got, I think it is, I think that's twin 50s on it.
It is.
Is it?
It is.
Yeah, we had two 50s on each side, which was quite an experience. They would try to back the helicopter up, you let them all go at the same time. They were pretty powerful stuff. Miniguns didn't have near as much recoil on them, I guess is what we would call it. But the miniguns would just be a real big burst real quick and we're done. The 50s we could go for quite a while with. But they pack a bigger punch. And sometimes we had grenade launchers on the front. Sometimes we had a minigun on the front. But we had all different kinds of armament that we could hang on that little baby. And this one, judging by the blade width, I think is a C model that we've hot rodded up. We used to take and they never seemed to have enough power to get off the ground with what we put on them. So we always looking for some way to get more. We took D model, which was a troop carrier, engines and transmissions, and put them in the C models, which was a smaller helicopter, which was just a hot rod kind of deal. And then all of a sudden they came that way. Figured that one out. We did a whole lot of things with helicopters that Bell didn't think we should probably do. I remember once we took some rounds in a rotor blade and it put a hole in one about this big. And it vibrated like a son of a gun. So bad that we had to land. And my pilot said, well, what are we going to do? And I said, we're going to shoot holes in the other one and wrap it up with duct tape. And he said, well, that's not right. I said, yeah, we're going to do that. And we did. I went out 45 and shot holes in it, wrapped it up, and it flew relatively well after that. So all of a sudden, it came down in an edict that we were supposed to do that if you got shot in one rotor blade.
Oh, my.
I said, well, I wouldn't suggest that to just everybody, but it got us home. And I was shot down 14 times while I was there, and only crashed about 5. So we did pretty good with that. But I only spent 3 days in the jungle overnight, which I didn't like at all. And God bless the guys that were in the infantry, and I'm glad we could get them out. But those are my sweethearts. Every time I hear one, I like them a lot. Go ahead, Ed. See what. Oh, and when we would rig things out to be lifted out, they would come over us with that monster thing, and we would hook them out with that. And that's a flying crane, they call it. And in the back, there's a little bubble back there. When they fly over you, the pilot transfers controls to that guy in that little bubble, and he flies back over you. And they like to do funny stuff with you when they go to hook it up. And you're flying in the rotor wash on it is said to be 180 miles an hour. Wow. So, and we're standing on top of this stupid helicopter so we can hook it out to him. And they're laughing themselves silly. And then they would fly over you, and if they don't key their microphone and bleed off static electricity, when you hook it up, you get the shock of your life. And they thought that was really funny. And they would knock you off the top of the helicopter with it. And, but they saved a lot of guys, I guess, but those were beastie things. Go ahead, Ed. And that's back on the flight line. I even got a smile there. Our active runway was this perforated steel, which is all put together and welded together. The first place I learned to weld was there. And I also learned that arc welding will sunburn you to death. And we made, they call them revetments. You see up at the sides, it's all steel too, and they're filled with sandbags inside. So you weld and fill sandbags, weld and fill sandbags. And when a rocket hit that stuff, it just like opening a beer can. When you blow them up, it's bad. So you have to go unweld it, weld it again. Go ahead. Go ahead, Ed. And that's the flight line again. I don't see a Cobra in there, but we were getting them. But that's how close we put them together, which was really stupid when you come to think about it. Hit one, hit them all. But they're a lot farther apart than they look like there. But we'd have to pull them out and run them. Couldn't start them up in there. But that was, Camp Evans was a great story about stupidity on the first gas point. So you might have heard about the ammo dump that blew up at Camp Evans. I was there, and it blew up for 4 days with one rocket went into it. And right next to the ammo dump was a fuel dump. So it burned up too. After that, they separated the helicopters by quite a bit. But hindsight's 2020, right? Go ahead, Ed. And that's silliness. But we're changing the rotor on that helicopter. Believe it or not, that whole helicopter hinges on that one shaft going up. And with one nut that goes on top. And fortunately enough, it's called the Jesus nut. Because if it comes loose, you're meeting Jesus real quick. But I just thought that was funny to throw that in. I think that's Gary Simons that was doing that, taking that picture. And of course, I was an idiot on the other end of the blade taking his picture. So I don't have too many pictures that came out of there because they confiscated a lot of my film for some reason or another. Go ahead, Ed. And God, that's a great picture. That's just an aerial shot. Go ahead, Ed. From Camp Evans was like a bald mountain. Went to Quang Tree, which was a French rubber plantation. A bunch of rubber trees and everything. And if you look at, I think you see vehicles and things in the trees. We had an active runway there that was capable of caribous and C-123s. But the story was that the owner of the plantation that we were sitting on paid North Vietnamese taxes. Because he paid North Vietnamese taxes, they didn't rocket his rubber trees. So we carved out little niches and put our helicopters in the trees. And our tents were all in the trees. But they knocked the heck out of the runway every day. Every day. And just a shot to show the density of the forest there. It's pretty heavy. Another shot of the great trees. That's where your tires come from, folks. Go ahead, Ed. And that's another house that was on the plantation there. We moved into Quang Tree. I think the Marines were there before we were. And the Marines and the 1st Infantry Division always had Vietnamese people working there doing the laundry, cleaning up around everything and everything. They always had a lot of Vietnamese people there. 1st Cav didn't do that. When we got there, they run everybody off. There were none of the Vietnamese people there at all. Go ahead, Ed. That's the tents in the trees and revetments and stuff upside it. Anything we do to protect ourselves from it. I think that slides backwards because that guy's driving a British Jeep, it looks like. I don't think that's the case, but go ahead. Ed. That's the kind of stuff that we got rid of. They would bring the laundry in and out every day. And we found that they would bring strange things like bombs and stuff into your tent. We had one kid that brought in, I think it was like a 5-pound block of C4 with a detonator. And our each tent had a bunker that went with it that was dug down the ground so you could run into it right from the tent. And he put that C4 in the bunker. I don't know how he intended on it detonating it, but it was there, so that's the reason that 1st Cav never put anything out there. and never had any trash around, nothing from home. I got in trouble for that. One time at Camp Evans, my mother sent me a whole box of cookies wrapped in tinfoil. And there was, after I shared them with everybody, there was tinfoil all over everywhere. And I got read up like nobody's business for that. No more tinfoil, Mom, no more tinfoil. And she sent me a birthday cake one time over there that had a bottle of scotch baked in it. Now, mind you, I wasn't 21 yet when she sent me this bottle of scotch. Thanks, Mom. On the way to ruin me, you know. Go ahead. And there's a bunch of guys that are just, it's a normal attire for after work. I think that's part of the active runway there. Yeah, I'm sure it is. In Quang Tri.
I see a C-130.
Is it a C-130 or C-123?
Or it could be a 123.
I don't remember it. I don't remember any C-130s landing there. It was pretty short. But see the puddles of water there and stuff. And it looks like sandbags over here. Sandbags were everywhere. And if you didn't have anything else to do, go fill sandbags. Go ahead, Ed. Oh, that's I guess we jumped quite a bit. When I got home, I turned to ridiculous stuff like racing cars. And that was quite the little car there. We built that, raced at Colorado National Speedway on the dirt, and built that in the garage at home from the ground up, and won 2 championships with it. And we had a lot of fun doing that. Go ahead. And there's a beard. It's been there for quite a while, almost as long as Jerry's. When I got home, I went to aircraft school and got my A&P license, then determined that I could make more money working on cars than airplanes without going out of the country. So I worked on cars for a while, and then my parents wanted me to work on the machinery at Mile High Photo. Some of you might have heard of that place, but I taught myself to be a photographer, and I won awards doing it. So that's where the beard started, and been there ever since. Yeah,
Is
Jerry.
that part that you got there, is that from a Vonkel engine?
The what?
The Wankel engine, the Vonkel? Is that what that part is in the photo that you're?
Oh yeah, it is. That's a rotor out of a Wankel engine
That's cool.
on a piece of plexiglass that goes on the lights up in the ceiling. That's what the base is on it. Jerry's a photographer, by the way, that I'm known for a spell, and part of the reason I'm here today. And Vance, who beat me up.
He does that.
Finally made it, Vance, finally.
Thanks.
I guess, is that the end of it?
No.
No?
Oh,
There's
yeah, I
more?
guess so.
Okay. Well, yeah, my unit in was called the Headhunters because I found out later that the 9th Cavalry was accredited with 50% of the 1st Cav's kills. So I just found that out recently, that we were that successful with it. But we were in just about everywhere that there was a mess going on. We were in Dashaw Valley, which I got steel crossbow arrows in the tail boom from there, which I thought was pretty exciting. We didn't know they were there till we landed. We looked like a porcupine. And so it was a pretty successful bunch.
Well, the reputation we heard is the gunners had a very short lifetime.
I'm sorry, what?
The helicopter gunners had a very short lifespan.
I beat them.
I'm sorry?
I beat them.
I know. Was that true?
I flew over 80 missions. And lost a lot of door gunners. I guess I was a chicken, I guess. We always put them towards the side. I don't know why, but we were always in the way. And the Vietnamese had a really poor judge of where they were shooting. They would shoot at the front and hit the back. So door gunners pilots didn't last a lot long either. But I had the same pilot for the whole time I was there, which is really rare. We went through a lot of co-pilots. Randy and I were really close. We're still close. He flies for the Sheriff's Department in LA. He would fly out and would tell me to fly back because he didn't trust the co-pilot. I didn't have a license to do that, but I know how to do it. I learned to hover in that big thing in Germany because a test pilot there let me horse around with that. But that's the way we were with it. And actually had him with, from the time we were riggers to the time we went to guns, same pilot. And he was really short, but it was a great little pilot. Gutsy. Any questions? I do better with questions than running my mouth.
What kind of protection, Bill, did they offer for the pilots
A
specifically?
flak jacket and a piece of metal
When you sat on the metal?
put under your seat.
Okay.
That was basically it, yeah. There's no ducking like in the movies. You didn't know what was coming. I had lots of holes behind me and around me, but never in me.
Well, that's a good thing. You're allergic to lead, aren't you?
Yeah, I caught some, but not directly, which was a good thing.
Bill, didn't you serve 2 tours?
Not quite,
No.
18 months.
Okay.
And that was because they forgot to train somebody else to do what I did. Because I had the rigging experience. They kept me and I had to train somebody else to do it. Which is, not real complicated, but it's very specific in what you do with it. If you don't tie your knots right, it falls down. And then everybody gets really mad at you when that happens. And I've seen that happen. I've seen them lift them up and they fall down. And then they're not worth recovering anymore. And part of that recovery job was if you don't think it's recoverable, you destroy it. So I have a munitions thing in my file somewhere that says you can blow stuff up. Funniest thing about that after I got back was when the mail bombs started happening, and one morning the FBI was banging on my door because I had that in my file. And Vietnam vets were crazy people, And so they questioned me for about an hour on my front lawn. Made my neighbors real happy about it. But they don't bother me anymore. I think they're too old for me to figure out what to do with it. Question, sir?
Yes, I've always, I was too young at the time to appreciate it when Vietnam veterans came back. But I've always been distressed at the way a lot of servicemen were treated when they came back from Vietnam, back to the United States. A couple of things. How were you received, just personally, and in your view, do you think that the American public and the American political leadership has kind of made up, or redeemed themselves?
They're trying real hard.
Bad behavior?
They're trying real hard. We flew into, when we first came back, we were supposed to fly into Seattle. It was snowed in, so we flew into Anchorage, which was, and had to stay there in Anchorage, which was a really big airport. Not then at all. They kind of let us take over the airport in the middle of the night, and we, bunch of 300 some odd guys turned loose in a little airport in the snow that we hadn't seen in a while. It was quite chaotic, but when we got to Seattle, we were not received well. So in order to combat that, I bought my own ticket home and came home in civilian clothes. That was how bad it was. It was pretty bad, and I can appreciate what they were doing. But I don't think that the government should have, or the guys coming back should have taken the shot for what the government was doing. You know, we were just dividing what our country asked us to do. And I'm glad that the guys now are being treated a lot better and with a lot of respect that they should get. And every time I see a veteran in a restaurant, I buy their dinner. Every time. And I've had that happen to me too. And I appreciate it, you know, from everybody. So my daughter is a school teacher, and she teaches English. And her history teacher that in her school has told their classroom that they don't get a chair in his class until they go get and talk to a veteran and welcome them home and get their signature. Then they can have a chair in his class. Otherwise, they have to stand up.
They should do that to the football players.
Go home until you get it right. If you don't like it, you know, I can appreciate what they're saying too. I don't appreciate the way they're displaying their displeasure, but it's their right to do what they did. We all fought for that. You know, it's your right to do as you choose, but I disagree with it immensely. I'm a flag-waving son of a gun all day long. Anybody else?
You had mentioned several times that you had crashed or had nights. After the war, I had a business where I hired a lot of pilots from the Vietnam area. And one of the things we had talking about, they didn't have to take off like they were going to bed out of hell every minute. I'm sure you did that intentionally. They were good pilots, but when the Huey was hit, where was the worst place that could be hit that caused you to go down?
Tail rotor, with the exception of the fuel cell, which we had cells which were bladders, which weren't too bad, but they did leak a lot. But when you get the tail rotor shot, which is, like I said, they didn't lead very well. They shoot at the pilot and shoot back. The most vulnerable point on that's the tail rotor, because in a helicopter, when your tail rotor goes out, fuselage tends to take over the action of the rotor, which means the rotors will spin the fuselage underneath, and it makes it real hard to land that way. So you have to maintain at least 60 knots to auto-rotate, which is coming without power, basically. If you got 60 knots, you can maintain some sort of flight angle. And believe me, at 60 knots, you hit really hard. And you see the skids on all the helicopters are, basically there's springs. When a helicopter lands, they kind of squish in like that. When you land real hard, they squish in a lot. And if you, almost as many rotor blades, which Vance can probably attest to, are skid assemblies that were replaced. And I've been shot down 14 times. We made it back a lot. And I figure that if you auto-rotate into the ground, that's a crash. So, controlled or not. But if you don't maintain that, you spin into the ground and it's really bad. But rotor blades and tail rotors were the biggest problem with it. Anything else?
Welcome home.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. You too, Navy. I do a lot of,
Hey, he's just a kid, though.
yeah, well, it's okay. He's wearing some silly hat like we do. Sorry?
I was there too.
Or
Water Navy.
you wouldn't wear a hat like that if you weren't. I had several friends that were on the, in the Navy there, and I used to kid them about, yeah, you suckers, Quonset hunts, stuff like that.
So you never got a chance to land on a YRBM?
On a YRBM?
YRBM. I was on a YRBM barge in the middle of the Mekong River. We supported two of you guys, two helicopters.
No, I did not get a chance to do that. I got to land on an aircraft carrier once, though, which was almost as bad as that, I would think. That sucker does this a bunch. You know, we're trying, these guys are saying, yeah, put it on the H, you know, which was, damn thing moved all the time. It went up and down and that way. And we had a hell of a time getting on that. We finally got it, but it was like a controlled crash under that. That too, we kind of thumped down the ground and we scooted over to the H. But, and they laughed at us a lot. But, yeah, we took some hot rod general out to aircraft carrier in the Bay of Tonsanute one time. And we spent one time at Air Force Base, and we flew our CO down there. We had some meeting with somebody. And when we got there, they came out and put doors on our helicopters, took all the guns off, put them inside, and made us sit outside. We were the animals from the jungle. They didn't want us to do anything. Didn't want us to go anywhere around their base. Anybody else? No? Well, I can't tell any more stories without that. Thank you. Thanks for having me, by the way.
All right, so two things before we leave for today. Just a little bit of trivia from my most favorite Vietnam era movie, Apocalypse Now. The first of the ninth was Robert Duvall's Air Cav unit in the movie.
That's
Okay?
true.
Yeah, so next time you see the movie, just remember that, okay?
And if you ever see the movie, we did almost all of that crap. We did the loudspeakers and a bunch of hoo-ha, the cavalry hats and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And we had pilots like that too. And they were about nuts. But, well, we didn't have any brains then. We were all kids.
Yeah,
You know, Randy, my pilot, was 22 years old. No fear, no brains. We'd fly into anything. We didn't care.
Did they have any surfboards?
Yeah, actually, I knew two guys that did that.
Oh.
And I think they stole it from the Navy.
There you go.
I know for a fact, and this is a true story, we used to fly down to Red Beach and steal pallets of beer from the Navy because the Navy got it cold. And ours was all pasteurized, something terrible with formaldehyde. And that was really bad beer. So we would fly down and steal it from you guys, and you would shoot at us. True story, honest to God.
So there you go.
Thank you. You weren't any better shots than the Vietnamese were.
So here, Bill, so from the museum, here is a challenge coin from the museum as a thank you for your presentation.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill, for being here today. All right. So if anybody wants to hang around, ask Bill any more questions one-on-one, Bill will be here for a few minutes. And then again, for those of you who haven't been here before, check out all of our new updates and renovations, both upstairs and downstairs. And again, thank you for coming.